What's going on, coin traders? Thanks for joining me for the show. Going to look at Algorand ALGO on that ticker. So special shout out to the Algo fam. If you are new to the channel, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you haven't done so just yet. And if you do enjoy this type of content, also a huge welcome back to everyone for Algo fam. Now, if you haven't heard just yet, there has been a pretty big news announcement regarding Algorand and the SEC. Specifically, there has been a lawsuit against Bittrex from the SEC, listing Algorand as a security. Now, that's not necessarily a lawsuit against Algorand, but it is a lawsuit against Bittrex claiming that it does have Algorand listed as a security in this fashion. So nothing specific to Algorand is being targeted for a lawsuit just yet, but overall it is still not the best sign listing it as a security, which is still ironic given the promotion of Algorand from Gary Gensler. So do want to talk about the overall setup today, what we are seeing and expecting, especially after we did get a pretty big sell-off today, and we did have Algo as one of the names leading the pullback scenarios. And as you can see, this did lead to a pullback that was pretty substantial and actually knocked out over 3 days worth of gains to the upside. So we're going to talk about what we actually see right now. One of the big notable things right now is that if we actually zoom out on this pattern, big obvious upside trend line for support ever since March 11th when we had our bottom. So you can see very nice ability for nice defense of this trend line to the upside, and we are getting a little bit of that back test right now. So if this trend line does fail, that will be invalidated, and likely that is going to signal a lot more pressure to the downside, especially after we do break a floor below 21.21. So now, in addition to this rising trend line for support, we also have a trend line that was previous support flipped into now resistance. Kind of forms an interesting pattern since it's not completely straight just yet. We could make a case for seeing a little bit more of a straightening line right around the 23.5-cent line or so, which ultimately, if we do have a horizontal line of resistance, then we could see the line of support rising would form a rising triangle, or an ascending triangle rather, which typically does lean more bullish, but that's also given the fact that we have direction of travel heading to the upside when we do actually smash into this linear point of resistance. That's a lot more bullish than what we're actually experiencing right now, where initial direction of travel is below it, and we actually broke the support line already, flipped it and confirmed it as resistance, despite having a rising level of support and higher stair-stepping floors this whole time. So as such, this is one of the reasons why we actually focus on volume pretty substantially. And as you can see, not really much going on in terms of the volume. In fact, the most three recent large bars for volume, or actually the largest four, have been three bearish bars and only one bullish bar, which was obviously on our Algo Kit huge pump, where we saw extremely nice gains, but that was pretty short-lived. But if we actually do zoom in on the current pattern, a little bit of an interesting setup forming since we have kind of formed a longer sloping bottom, establishing a longer line of support for that floor, which does come in at a price level right around 21.15. And for longer term closing support, we're looking at about 21.40. So a pretty big zone of downside support that has been holding up as that support level for about 12 days. So almost 2 weeks there. And so in addition, we did also kind of form a little bit more of this bowl. Now, we actually topped out a little bit lower than the previous high, so that does actually start to set up for a potential cup and handle pattern if we can confirm lows of this current price level and actually see a little bit more follow through. So if we do actually see a lot of support coming in on the support trend line, that could actually end up being what forms this nice handle for this overall cup and handle period. If that is a bullish case scenario that does end up playing out, then we would end up seeing for a target from the bottom side of the bowl up to the high, what would break out. And then from there, we actually do set our target based on a vertical level above that. So just shy of 27 cents. So even down from the current trend high right now would put price at about 26.5. So that's definitely very realistic. But one of the things that's also a little bit more notable too is that the last couple of times the bulls had tried to break above these exponential moving averages on the daily, we've actually seen a pretty quick rejection and an immediate almost flush. So again, broke bullish, weren't able to defend as support, which actually would form the path of least resistance using these EMAs. But ultimately right now we did see the negative for the SEC announcement, which is one of the catalysts that has pushed such a bearish bar and also the price back below these exponential moving averages once again. So because of that, that is actually another reason why this level of support is so critical to defend from 22 cents down to about 21.5, because if that in fact does slip, we are still going to see the exponential moving averages being a massive point of overhead resistance. And so if we are able to find support and actually see a little bit more upside, we would be able to continuously flip again, hopefully the exponential moving averages back in that bullish formation, having just a little bit of a quick fake out from that kind of semi-bearish catalyst event. Flipping on over to the 2-day though, same kind of thing. We are looking at the exponential moving averages, and we did have a little bit of hope until the current Black Swan event actually rejected from these exponential moving averages, specifically the 50 once again, and now we are actually sitting below this 12-period EMA. So definitely not the best sign with less than a day, about 19 hours left until this 2-day candle closes. But so because we are sitting now below these big points of resistance, it is going to come down to being able to defend a lot of these levels of price support and also levels of closing support for these 2-day candles. So again, any slippage down to about 21.5 is going to be okay and still within the lines of what could be a technical setup for continued upside moves. Definitely not the best as holding in the current level, but obviously from a technical setup, that is going to be what we look. Any slippage below that is going to completely invalidate this and actually be a very, very bearish sign for a lot more downside action. And we'll actually be confirming a little bit more of a double top around 23.35 as we have seen resistance on this EMA and then also price level resistance. Again, 3 tests of this resistance line are going to prove that it is very strong, especially after having such strong movements like the algo kit candle have that complete lack of follow through. So definitely not the best sign when we talk about getting over big resistance points. Now, if we actually clear up the screen here, flip into the weekly, one of the worst looking altcoins, well, actually all of these altcoins are actually looking pretty bad, but among top names, this is actually one of the worst looking weekly charts. And especially after a complete slippage continuation, lack of follow through, rejecting the 26 EMA, and then once again, losing support on the 12-period EMA. And then right now, thought we were going to get a little bit more of that upside, but the current candle still looking like we do want to see a little bit more of a pullback. Now, if we are in the current week, since we do have a little over 5 days, about 5 days and 19 hours to close, then that could be a potential for a lot more buying, turning this current candle into a nice longer lower shadow and actually seeing a little bit more bullish upside. That's obviously the event, like we do find support on the shorter time frame, and actually turn the pattern into that cup and handle pattern like we were talking about, which would actually see prices running up above. If we did target about 26.5, would actually see a run up just above that 26-period EMA, which obviously we would love to see as a very nice point of support. However, obviously we know that 26 is going to be pretty substantial when it comes to resistance, since we have had complete rejection of it before. And so it's actually been almost about a year and a half since we have seen the price above this 12-period or 26-period, excuse me, EMA for the weekly. So we know that these exponential moving averages, as we've seen, have just proven a complete resistance point and a path of least resistance to the downside as price has been falling. So on this weekly, if we actually start to increase the scale a little bit, do want to point out how it does still kind of form a little bit more of that bear flag type pattern. So initial direction is bearish. So despite having a long pattern as well, could still be looking at a little bit more of that downside pullback, which on this weekly time frame would lead to a pretty big test of about the 20-cent level. And then if that does fall, then we would be looking at about 18, then down to our current trend low right around the 16-cent line. If we do assume that this is a bear flag type pattern though, and we could look at the price potential for what we could see if we do get a bearish pullback, in fact, actually not even expecting this type of much, but that would actually put the price down to about 12.5 cents. Obviously, we need to see a lot of bearishness across the space. That's definitely not a prediction or a call. I actually think the lower support levels from 20 cents down to 18 down to the lowest at 16 are going to be an extremely strong support point as well. So even if we do happen to get back below that, I think it's actually going to be pretty tough to see prices slip below 16. So I think 16 is going to be a pretty big defense line, where we would actually find a little bit more of a longer term double bottom come in. A lot of signs right now for Bitcoin to slip that we will be talking about over on Twitter and in a different video, but just overall know that this is not the best time, especially after a huge run up from Bitcoin, and a lot of the bullish signs have been starting to subside and losing a little bit more of that hype and euphoric drive. So we have been talking about this pattern over on Twitter. Go ahead and drop me a follow if you haven't done so just yet. At @coin_trades is the handle over there. And do look forward to chatting with everyone over there. But that is going to go ahead and wrap up this quick little analysis update on Algorand and the SEC and all of the fun stuff happening right now with the current chart. Let me know what you think down in the comment sections below. Also, let me know your predictions as well, if you agree, disagree, all that stuff. And if you did enjoy the video and haven't done so just yet, would appreciate you hitting the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. All right. That is it for now. Do appreciate all the continuous love and support. As always, it does mean so much. Stay safe, take care, everyone, and I'll catch you back in the next video.